Welcome to Real Judaism with Rabbi Klapper. Unfiltered wisdom for Jewish life.
As Hashem, we're here, starting again now, Perek Ches. We're in the last paragraph on Daf Kuf Yud Ches, the oynish of Chilul Shabbos. Okay, so the Gemara, the Rapinkus here says, just to get us started off, because even though we did this yesterday, last week, we're just going to get started off again, and we discussed that maybe, Shabbos is the inyan of Emunah. We discussed that way back, and I lost him over here. Brian, is that you? Oh, okay, good. Okay. So we were discussing how Shabbos is the Yeshorish of Emunah, but there are other things that also have Emunah in them. The Torah itself, and somebody Rachmana litzlan burns the Torah, so he's going to get the same punishment? No. So why is Shabbos so chomer that there's a din of skila on Shabbos? So we're here in the bottom paragraph, Kuf Yud Ches. V'heichen matzanu mitzvah doime. Where do we find a mitzvah that is similar to the mitzvah of Shabbos? Being in Beis HaMikdash. This is what we spent a long time in the last parak talking about. The Beis HaMikdash. Shalstia katana be'avoida kvar yesh oynish misa. Then when it comes to the avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, even the smallest change could be a chiyuv misa. Even the smallest din. A kohen didn't wear all of his begadim. He forgot one. The kohen gadol wore all of his begadim except for the tzitz, and he did avodah chiyuv misa. Even for the small thing. For what? Because I didn't wear the tzitz. For that, for all the other mitzvahs in the Torah, there's no chiyuv miyad that a person gets death penalty. The Gemara, the Mishnah in the Masechah Sanhedrin says that if a kohen is doing avodah, I believe betuma, and they don't even wait. They don't wait to do anything. The young kohanim take it out back and crack his head. That's actually, I think, what the Mishnah actually says, literally. We don't wait to take care of this. Kodesh Baruch Hu has Rahmanis. He gives a person the ability to do tshuva, right? Beis Din needs Eidim and Hasra, but there's certain averos that on the spot you get it. So here, Hazar Krev, you must below Big Day Kahuna Ame Kazar Misa. The pasuk says that somebody was a zar, who is a foreigner who comes to do the avodah of the Beis HaMikdash, he's going to die. And that's talking also, like we just said, about a kohen who comes without begadim mirushalim u'misulakim pasul. Because if the begadim aren't on properly, right, that it has to be michnasei bad, it has to be on his skin, or miluchlachim, or there's something, there's a stain on it. It's pasul, and therefore it is going to pasul the avodah. Im yesh chatzitza, if there's a separation between him and the clothing, it's also possible. If there's even airspace, the Gemara is unclear. If there's airspace between the begadim and the skin of the kohen, is that also going to passel the avodah? That's like not wearing a beged, and that's a chiyuv misa for such a small thing. I'm now at the top of Daf Kuf Yud Ches. The smallest little thing, and all of a sudden there's a chiyuv misa. It's amazing. Right? We discussed in the last parak so many connections between Shabbos and the Beis HaMikdash, and here's another one. For the smallest little infraction, death. Wow, why? Well, let's try to understand what this means. What's going on over here? Mashal. We have a mashal the mishi yeshlo machala be'echa me'abar. Somebody who has a infection. He has an infection in one of his limbs. A roife gazer oimer shatarach nituach. Yeah, the roife, they like cutting people up. Not every doctor, but this one happened to be. Usually, you have your surgeons. They like cutting people open, which is why they became surgeons. Maybe not all surgeons are like that, but okay. Anyway, so We got to cut him open. We got to take care of this. Let's say, I don't know, they don't like to talk about this. We try to keep this under the radar, but you ever wonder how, like, a new surgeon gets his first surgery? You ever wonder that? Like, the first time a brain surgeon did brain surgery, like, what exactly, who was that? Who was that guy that was the first time?
You will tie your intern and you pack an intern and have professional working.
That's probably right. Very good. Meaning,
if there was something wrong.
Right? Meaning that they are going to allow a newbie, somebody who's never done this before, as long as his teacher is right next to him and making sure that he's doing everything right. But who's doing that cut? Who's doing it? The new doctor. So here he gives an example where you have the new doctor and oops, that's one of the things you don't like to hear from a surgeon. Oops, he cut in the wrong place. Oh boy. Let's say it was surgery on his hand. Let's say it was surgery on his foot, on his leg. Even though he's off by a little bit, yeah, you'll be able to see a difference. He's off. He cut not exactly in the right place. He cut a little bit in the wrong place. This person probably is not going to die because the guy was off by a millimeter or two in the place where he was supposed to cut. Probably he won't die from that. Most cases. But when we're talking about open heart surgery, or we're talking about brain surgery, we're talking about very, very sensitive. Even the smallest little change, you can kill somebody like that. You can kill somebody like that. I'll give you one example. You're having brain surgery to remove some kind of growth. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to cut out the entire growth without touching the main part of the brain. So you can get off most of it, and if you leave even a little bit, that can be there to grow back. It could be there to grow back. So on the one hand, he's got to get that whole thing out. On the other hand, he can't go too far. You got to be really, really, really exact in order to get everything, but not more than everything. Because you didn't get everything, you're leaving the person in a sakana. You get more than everything, you're leaving the person in a sakana. No matter which way you go, it's a sakana. You got to be exact. So you got this new surgeon trying to do this. That's maybe this shouldn't be his first thing that he does. Maybe he should practice on other things first.
They practice on animal dummies first.
Okay. So you can imagine. So this is the mashal. This is the mashal that Rav Pinkus brings. Ki yadu b'zmanenu shenituach moach b'leiv nasim tachas microscope. They're so dakas, they're so small. They use microscopes. They're getting within less than millimeters. Less than millimeters. Again, even if you leave something you can't even see. We're talking about microscopic cells you're leaving over of a cancer that could grow back. On the other hand, you're cutting off a piece of his brain that's not necessary. They have to be so so careful when they do their surgery. When it comes to these internal organs, hakol kol kach adin. Everything is so sensitive. Umiduyak, it has to be so exact. One small, teensy, tiny little mistake, you're off, not even by a millimeter, you're off by less than a millimeter. And it can lead to complete disaster. It can lead to death for a little, teeny little thing. That's exactly what's going on in the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash is the place of the heart and the brain of the world, right? We know, the Mishnah tells us, that the Kodesh HaKodashim, that the Aron of Bris in the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Beis HaMikdash was sitting on the Even Shasiyah. What's the Even Shasiyah? Right? The Mishnah, I believe in Masechah Shkolim, says that during the Zman of the first bayis, where the Aron was there, it was on it. It was on the Even Shasiyah, this big rock, what they call, right now, unfortunately, Har HaBayis is what they call the Dome of the Rock. What rock are they talking about? That they made a dome on this rock. The rock is the Even Shesiyah. The Even Shesiyah was the first piece of matter that the rest of the world came from. Hashem created the whole world from the Even Shesiyah. That means the makom of the Kodesh HaKodashim is the source of life for the entire universe. That's it. That's the source. That's the brain. That's the heart of all of creation. So if you're there, you're in the brain, you better be careful with what you do. Shemisham yoytze hachiyus lo'olam. That, the Beis HaMikdash, is what brings literally life to the whole world. That's how Hashem created the world. From the Even Shesiyah. That was the first form of matter, and from there expanded the whole world. That's why the Beis HaMikdash and all the halachas of the Beis HaMikdash is different than everything else in the world. All the other mitzvahs are the legs and the arms, the external, even some of the internal parts, but they're not the most sensitive parts of life. For sure. So nobody wants to walk around without a leg. Nobody wants to walk around without fingers, without an arm. Nobody wants to do that. But you're not gonna be dead. It's better than being dead, right? The people that were moiser nefesh and they lost limbs in order to survive the Holocaust, and there are people who, in order to not chal Shabbos, actually gave up limbs. They gave up limbs.
What hard of hearing?
Yeah, why? Oh, yeah, because he was moiser nefesh for Shabbos. He was moiser nefesh for Shabbos. People did anything to not work on Shabbos, to not do anything on Shabbos, and they were willing to give up even limbs of their body in order to avoid that. Right? Adayin ein zeh also nefesh. To give up a different mitzvah is not. Yes, you don't want to lose your limbs, but you're not going to be dead. Masha enkein Beis HaMikdash. Have halev ha'moyach. That's the heart. That's the brain. That's the source of life. V'lachein hasakana kol kach gedola. That's why it's so, any little thing makes a difference. Every little thing that's done in the Beis HaMikdash is different. Nuksiv she'natati behen eitz kol pri. The pasuk in Koheles says that Shlomo Melech put every type of tree. What does it mean that he planted every type of tree? So Rashi explains, Shahaya Shlomo makir b'chachmaso as gidei ha'aretz eze gidei holech el eretz kush v'nata bo pilpulin. He knew exactly where to find the root of each particular type of tree, that he knew this is the perfect place to plant this tree. He knew where to plant the pepper tree, or the pepper, however peppers grow. He knew where to plant the apple tree and the orange and the bananas and everything, single thing he knew. And where was the best place for carobs, and he planted a carob tree. Shekol gidei artzos boim letzion shemisham mishtoshe shel ha'olam. Shenemar mitzion michlal yoifi lekach nemar al kol pri b'midrash tanchuma ad kan. Shlomo Melech knew that every single root of a tree that it grows anywhere in the world had to have its life source from the center of life, which means everywhere in the world that there are different types of trees, their roots stem from the Beis HaMikdash. And Shlomo Melech had the chachma to find and to know where each root was. And he took advantage of that in order to plant all the different types of trees that there are in the whole world right by the Beis HaMikdash. I don't think in the Beis HaMikdash, because you're not allowed to do that, but right by the Beis HaMikdash, because around the Beis HaMikdash, where all the roots are stemming from, and he was able to take advantage of that. And that shows us that all of life, all the trees of the world get their life, the root, from the Beis HaMikdash. That's the same thing. Just like the heart sends out its aorta, its arteries out, and the arteries go to every single part of your life, of anybody's life. So everything has a shorish back to the heart. The heart sends out to everything, unlike many of the other organs of the world, of a human being, excuse me. You know, we don't necessarily say that, the lungs are connected to the the spleen or to the appendix, right? We don't necessarily say that a person's,
One
tend.
system fails, the other could also.
That's right. But what's the system that gives life to all the other systems? The circulatory system.
Mm-hmm.
They're all obviously every part. If a person has a problem with one part of his body, that could cause death, right? Certainly. But even if a person has an infection, in their finger, theoretically that could lead to death. Also, if a person got bitten by a poisonous snake on their finger, that ultimately, chas v'shalom, can lead to the person's death, right? But the what's sending life everywhere is
The heart.
the heart. It's very interesting because the nervous system works like that, but in reverse. The nervous system takes all its impulses from the outside and brings them in order to try to understand what's going on in the outside world and then responds. So it's kind of like from the outside in, whereas the heart is from the inside out. The heart is sending life to everything else around it. So that's what the Beis HaMikdash is. It's sending life to everything around it. So we're here on the bottom of Kuf Yud Tes, the second to last paragraph. Mamash oiso inyan gam b'Shabbos kodesh. This is exactly the same thing when it comes to Shabbos. Shehi hamakor l'kol kedushas. All of holiness, all of spirituality stems from Shabbos, because all of spirituality stems, and all of life and all of everything stems from Hashem. And when does Hashem bring himself into the world? Shabbos. That's why Shabbos is the core habracha, like we mentioned many times in the past. That is the source of everything kadosh. The hilei ba'olam. That is the heart of the world. Just to understand it just a little bit on a Kabbalistic level, right? Shabbos is the number 7. So physicality is represented by 6, and spirituality is represented by 7. How do you see that? Because if you talk about directions, there are 6 directions: north, east, south, west, up, and down, like a cube. A cube represents the 6 directions. The 6 directions represent the physicality of the world. Everything in the world has a presence and a location. Everything in the world exists has an existence. What's number 7? Number 7 is the panemius. Number 7 is the inside point. It's the makor, it's the source of the soul of the physicality. That is the heart of life. That's what Shabbos is. Shabbos is number 7. Shabbos is what gives life to the other 6 days of the week. It gives life to all of existence. It's the source of all bracha, all kedusha. V'lei ba'olam. That's the heart of the world. V'lachein kol kach chamor chilul Shabbos. That's why chilul Shabbos is so sensitive. That's why it's so chamor. It's so strict. Afilu b'mei calls you even the smallest little thing. When we're talking about the brain, we're talking about the heart, the most sensitive areas. That is all of life. It's so stringent. The smallest little mistake, the smallest little cut in the wrong place can be catastrophic, because that's what it is. That's life. Right? If you tell the surgeon, why'd you do that? Like, how much was I off? I was. You can't even measure it. I was off by so little that it doesn't even have a measurement. Sorry, but you killed the patient. You killed the patient. You were off by so little. Even that little bit makes a huge difference. Ube'emes. Here on the bottom, very bottom of Kupyu Test. Be'emes, Masha is barnu la Masha lama b'Shabbos Beis HaMikdash yesh peido kol kach. That which we just compared, Shabbos and the Beis HaMikdash, to the heart and to the brain, that even one little wrong move and it's all over. Really, says Rav Pinkus now is going to bring in a big chiddush. It's really just the opposite. What does that mean? שבגוף האדם מהי באמת הסיבה שהלב המוח כל כך עדינים עד שבסטייה קלה ביועסת תלוי מחיים, מפני ששם באמת makom nifgash adam im boro. Do you know why the heart is so sensitive? Do you know why the brain is so sensitive that every one little... It's not... The source is not the brain itself. The source is not the heart. The source is that the brain and the heart are the place where we meet Hashem. It's the place of the soul. It's the place where we are connecting ruchnius to gashmius. Right? When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, he created man on the 6th day. And Chazal tell us that each one of the days was balanced out by a different one. The first day was both Ruchnius and Gashmius, because Hashem created everything on the first day. Yesh Me'ayin, everything was created on the first day. So that's both Ruchnius and Gashmius. The second day was the Rekia, Ruchnius. Third day was the land, Gashmius. Fourth day was all the celestial beings, Shamayim, Ruchnius. Fifth day, was the birds and the fish, Gashmius. So far it's even. And we want to keep evenness in the Bria, says Chazal. I believe Rashi brings it in Parshas Bereshis. So in order for there to be evenness, what do we have to have in the 6th day? We have to have both Ruchnius and Gashmius. We have to have both. And that's why when Hashem created man, man is both Ruchni and Gashmi. Man has a physical goof. We have a heilige neshama. We have a neshama that's higher than the Malochi Asharis. And there's a connecting point. We're now going through all the Kabbalah, the different aspects of our neshamas. We have a nefesh, a ruach, a neshama, different aspects, different levels. But where is the place? Where we're human beings. Where is the place where of our neshamas? You know, it says that when Cain killed Hevel, he knew that he was only going to be able to kill Hevel by getting his neshama out of his goof. The problem was he didn't know where the neshama was. And that's why he was stabbed in multiple places, because he was trying to find where the neshama was. He was trying to get the neshama out. He knew that's the only way to kill him, is to get the neshama out of his body. But I don't know where it is. Where is the neshama in the body? So says Rav Pinkus right over here. Do you know why the brain and the heart are so sensitive? That's where the neshama is. V'heim Beis HaMikdash u'Beis HaAdam. That is the Beis HaMikdash shebetoicha Adam. That's inside of a person. Where's the place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is inside of us, where we connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Zeh Lashon HaRambam in Mor Nevuchim. V'da'achi, you should know, my brother. Sha'aseichel asher shepa aleinu me'Hashem yit'al me'Hashem yit'al hu adibuk asher beinenu leveino. The connecting point between us and Hashem is our minds, is the seichel. That is where we are connected to Hashem. Shesham be'emes makom hamifgash shel adam im boyer b'boyer. That is where we feel that connection with Hashem. Like the Rav Chaim Volozhiner says, that when a person has a bad thought, he says that's worse than Titus bringing a zoyna into the Beis HaMikdash. Because when Titus brought a zoyna into the Beis HaMikdash, Kodesh Baruch Hu had already left. It was an empty shell that he destroyed. But in our own minds, Kodesh Baruch Hu is there. That's where we meet Hashem. That's where we're connecting to Hashem. So we bring a bad machshava into there. That's bringing a zoyna into the Beis HaMikdash, into the Kodesh HaKodashim. That's the place where we're together with Hashem, and there's nobody else there. We're mamish like the Kohen Gadol, because there's nobody else there. There's nobody else watching. The only ones that are there are you and Hashem. That's where you meet Hashem. That's what Rambam says in Mor Nevuchim. Mor Nevuchim was meant for the layman, meant to explain to a regular person, how do you connect? How do you have a connection to Hashem? V'chein amra HaKadosh Baruch Hu liban shel Yisrael. We say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the heart of Klal Yisrael. Mintzah shalev hu mitzia shel Beis HaMelech. It's also the heart is also. Chazal tell us the heart is HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the heart of Klal Yisrael. Where is HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our hearts? Valkein kol ma'aseh b'moyach u'belev yesh bahem mitziut achumra shel oimid lifnei Hashem. That has the most machmir aspects of life. Anything that's going on in the heart and in the brain is connected to Hashem. That's why they're so sensitive. So the mashal became a nimshal. The mashal that the heart is so sensitive actually is the nimshal, because The heart and the brain are actually the places where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. The places where you are closest to the king are the most sensitive places because you have to be sensitive. The king is here. If the king is here, you got to be sensitive. You got to be careful. You got to make sure you're doing everything right. It's exactly the same thing we were just saying about the Beis HaMikdash. That's why exactly the same exact reason why you have to be makpid in the Beis HaMikdash is also the same reason why you have to be makpid in your own heart and in your own mind. And not only physically, but obviously even more so spiritually. This is the place we have to be sensitive. Hashem is there. If even the littlest bit in physicality could hurt it, how much more so a little nick in spirituality could hurt it. Vu'adin. I'll finish up the parak now. Vu'adin. Vu'inyan mamish binyan Shabbos. It's exactly the same thing when it comes to Shabbos. Shabbos he Beis HaMikdash u'makom ashras Shechina. Like we mentioned all in the last parak. Shabbos is mamish the Beis HaMikdash. We come to Shabbos, we are in the Beis HaMikdash. We're not Kohanim, but we can all be in the Beis HaMikdash. Because Shabbos is the Beis HaMikdash for every one of us, because we are with the Shechina. That is the place of Ashras Shechina. Meshes kol shoyis HaShabbos Adam b'mitziut matzav shel oimid lifnei HaMelech. Every second of Shabbos, every minute of Shabbos, we're standing with Hashem. Mamish like we're in the Kodesh HaKodashim. We're together with Hashem. Mamish amazing. Mamish amazing. Okay, Be'ez Hashem, we'll start Perek Tes next week. Shkoyach.
Thank you for joining Real Judaism, where we explore Torah's wisdom for real life. Created by J Foundations and produced by Eli Podcast Productions. Find more episodes at realjudaism.org and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.